So why don't we start with a quick reminder of what Invesco QQQ actually is?
Sure thing. So Invesco QQQ is designed to track the NASDAQ 100 index. And the NASDAQ 100 index is comprised of the 100 largest non-financial stocks, or companies rather, listed on the NASDAQ stock exchange. We think the resulting portfolio exposure is one that really provides access to innovation for end investors in a single ticker solution. NASDAQ or QQQ has a 26+ year track record, so launched in 1999. So I think you could argue that it's innovative in itself, having been launched in really the nascent stages of the ETF industry, which I'm sure many in the room know is grown in a substantial manner. By assets, QQQ is currently ranked 5th overall as far as AUM is concerned globally, and it is the second most actively traded ETF. So
yeah, it's become one of the largest, obviously in the U.S. When we first started working with Invesco, and we have had a long relationship with you, so thank you. I did a deep dive just to understand, like, where did the Qs come from? Do you know that answer?
Enlighten me.
So NASDAQ, when they created it, gave it the QQQ because a lot of the NASDAQ stocks ended in Qs, and so it was just sort of a ticker. It was the ticker that was used to trade it. And then Invesco recognized the power because traders began just calling it the Qs, and they recognized the power of that brand, and that became why it's known as the QQQs. So
here we are. We learn something every day, right?
It was a brilliant kind of almost accidental marketing. It wasn't a marketing move. But it was accidental in the sense that it became this powerful brand.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, in today's changing environment, which I think we all know is one that is quite active and changing. When Lisa said, where do you see things in 10 years? We were talking like, where do we see things in 5 months? So in today's rapidly changing economy, how are the holdings within QQQ adapting, evolving, changing?
Yeah, so when we think about innovation at Invesco, we think primarily from a lens of research and development. And research and development spend of the underlying companies within Invesco QQQ. So what we've found is that QQQ companies have a tendency to spend more in research and development when compared to other companies in the S&P 500.
Yeah.
So if you were to look at a headline index level, I think it's roughly 1.4 times the amount of spend on average that's spent by a QQQ company relative to an S&P 500. Further, if you were to strip out the 85 or 86 names that also fall within the S&P 500, that spread goes up to almost 12.5x. So that has really been the kind of fuel that has given these companies the ability to be successful and stay ahead of changing consumer preferences and different trends. I think the other aspect is really they've been able to be nimble. Good example of that is a lot of the Mag 7 companies that we see that have been driving a large part of performance for overall equity indexes. In the last few years, they've looked very different than they did maybe 20 years ago, right? So they've diversified their core business structures and segments and really just been able to actively reinvest and stay current.
So when it comes to investing in emerging technologies, where is QQQ looking outside of the technology sector per se?
Well, one of the biggest misconceptions that we come across in Invesco is QQQ is a tech fund, right?
Right.
And to a degree, that's correct. You have a significant exposure within the portfolio that's tech, roughly 65% or 55%, depending on the classification system you're using. But
which is down from what it used to be when it first started, right?
Yeah, it changed. It ebbs and flows.
Right.
But what we've seen is, you still have a sizable allocation towards telecommunications as well as consumer discretionary.
Right.
And if you look at the patent portfolios of these companies, you see a lot of, if you look at the main disruptive areas within the industry as far as tech is concerned, right, and even more broadly, you see a lot of the AI things as far as big data, natural language processing, but The exposure within the portfolio specific to healthcare is something that's differentiated. So you think bioinformatics, robotic surgery,
Right.
Nanotechnology. So it's something that we think is a diversifier within that portfolio, and leads it to being really a good option as far as someone looking to get large cap growth exposure in a portfolio, or even satellite exposure, where they want to access that innovation and different kind of technologies and budding industries that are really encompassed within the broader wrapper.
Yeah, when I was looking at the portfolio and how it's changed, it seemed to me that Invesco QQQ is really looking for these transformative themes. So, in the case that you're talking about here, how technology will transform healthcare, for example.
Absolutely, and I think
or mobile payments. Yeah.
That's another great example, and I think just the day and age we're in, right? Technology really. It's a gray area, because if you're in the financial services industry or if you're in healthcare, pick your poison. You really need to be able to adopt technology to be successful in your own business and grow results. And the companies that are doing that well are the ones that will be successful and have been successful.